Hello and welcome to You Are Human, a show attempting to decode human potential and possibilities by bringing you real stories, real heroes. My today's guest is an epitome of bravery, courage, and fearlessness. She is a social and political activist. She's a writer. She has been granted the Malala Fund Education Champion Award. She, at the age of 23, is the founder and executive director for Learn Afghanistan, an organization that is working towards making education and healthcare accessible to rural Afghanistan. At present, the situation in Afghanistan is so scary and worrisome. However, it is the brave that she is doing. She is fighting through this humanitarian crisis and is fighting for the rights of women and children. Please welcome Pashtana Durrani. Hi, Pashtana.
Hi, Jagruti. Thank you for having me. I'm flattered for all the introduction. That felt good.
There is a lot more that I had to, cut short. So I can go on for another 5 minutes, by the way. It's all you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Pashtana, how are you doing today?
As I told you, as we were on the call a few minutes before, it's an emotional day. I don't know why, but it's taking a lot of emotional toll on me. I don't know, because it's sinking in that nobody cares, because our ambassador was supposed to talk at the UN today, and now he is not supposed to be talking. So I don't know. I'm like, Afghanistan is supposed to talk, and if nobody from Afghanistan is talking, then who is talking? Who is listening?
Yeah, it is actually a sad situation. And actually, that leads me to my first question, because in the mid of August was the first time I saw you on my screen. I saw this young girl with so much fire and courage in her eyes, in her words, in her body language. And through this month plus, whenever I see you, whenever I read something that you have posted on social media or in your interviews, I still see the same fire and the same courage. 2 days ago, I was attending this Instagram live where you were there. Same fire, same courage. Now, it is a battle that you have chosen, and this battle is not easy. It's a lot of challenges every single day. And when you're faced with so much challenges, it takes a toll physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We tend to question, God, are you even there? Like, why are you seeing me suffer so much, or people around me suffer? I would like to know, how are you maintaining, wearing this spirit of a lioness all throughout? How?
I'm gonna be honest, like every time I talk and stuff, it's always in the back of my head. I'm thinking about, like, okay, it's the Afghan women I'm representing right now. If you are representing Afghan women, and if you break down right now, people are gonna think that we are weak. Although it's a very good sign to show emotions, I'm very pro emotions and all, but at the end of the day, it's always the people that you represent, not just you. And I had to choose that, so that's the reason I continue to do so. But at the same time, like, sometimes spiritually you question it, but at the same time you question the intellect. When you're talking, is it making noise? Is it making good noise? Are the people listening? Are people in power listening? But at the same time, you also think to yourself, does it matter? So for me, that's more important. Every time I'm like, okay, I want to give up, I'm just done with interviews, I want to, like, go off media and everything, then I remember this message from my friends, and where it's like, he's a good friend of mine, but he's also working with me at Learn, and he tells me that my niece, who is 9 years old and supposed to go to school, is not going anymore. Why? Because she doesn't feel safe. Now, she's not stopped from going to school, but she doesn't feel safe. And, there were millions of girls in Afghanistan like that who wouldn't feel safe right now by going to school. And that's where it hits me. Okay, today I'm presented with an opportunity. I have a platform. I have an internet connection. I have the safety to talk from my home. So why not? At least I have that, all those safety. There are people who are starving in Afghanistan right now. There are girls who are banned from school, let's say not banned, but stalled. Their process of going back to home or school is stalled. So for me, that's important. Every time I think okay, I should stop, then I think about all the women that I'm going to be responsible for if I don't raise the concern, because I had the opportunity and I didn't do it. So that would be guilt and responsibility. So I just try to make sure that I get their messages out instead of focusing just on me. It takes toll on your mental health, but yeah, it is we can't complain right now. At least I have shelter over my head.
Yeah, yeah. You're a very grateful person. I have heard in your interviews, you're always like, no, my life is blessed. I'm grateful for my life,
Yeah.
for whatever I have lived. What are you grateful for today in this moment, if I have to ask you?
I am grateful for the fact that I'm Afghan woman. I'm part of the Afghan women, and I'm an Afghan woman. Instead of the fact that I'm part of something people who have taken what do we call it, been part of the genocide in the past and don't want to accept it. Instead of people who have harassed and abused human rights and humans, instead of the people who are actually literally making sure that they stall their own daughters of their own land from getting an education. So I'm grateful that I'm not part of all those things. I'm an Afghan woman. At the end of the day, that's a good thing to be happy about.
That is amazing. That is brilliant. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get their side of inspiration from this and be proud of wherever we belong to, wherever we come from. There, we have to take pride in our identity because at least we have one, isn't it?
Exactly. I was in the middle of the chaos of being trolled. I get this text from this, not text, a tweet from this person, and he says, "Can you talk slow? You talk very fast, and we want to understand you, what you're saying." And I was like, so for me, it's funny because I come from a Kandari family, and everyone in us talks very fast, very fast. If you meet Kandari people, we talk fast, very fast. So when I said that it's not me doing the talking, it's the genetics in me doing the talking. So yeah, of course, you have to own your identity. If you talk fast, the way you cover up, the way you dress, the way you are, if that doesn't abuse any humans or human rights, I guess it's good to go. It's good to own that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did see that tweet, by the way, and I do see how people still, tend to troll you. And I just look at them and I'm like, God bless them. May they, may they evolve from this mindset because, again, whatever you're doing is so courageous. I mean, there are so many intellects who have fled Afghanistan for their own safety. There's nothing wrong. You're protecting yourself. I've heard you speak in your interviews that you lived as a refugee and you do not want to be displaced and to live as a refugee again. You are an Afghan woman, that is your land, and you want to claim that land because you are a part of that country. That is your identity. Secondly, you also mentioned that a couple of months ago, you were speaking to your students and you promised them that your dreams will be fulfilled. You will go to college, you will go to university. And you were like, how can I show my face to them? I cannot leave because I have made this promise. Firstly, whenever I think of this, and even now when I'm saying this, I'm getting goosebumps because it's not something someone normal would think of first. You would want to save yourself before you think of someone else. But what you are doing is just so incredible. And I would like to know, because you've lived your life as a refugee from your childhood, if you can narrate something, how was the life of a refugee? What do you remember as from your childhood?
I'm gonna be honest with the refugee part of the story. I was a privileged refugee. I had shelter, I had food on my table. I was protected in my house. I was not harassed. I was I had sort of happy childhood. Not all happy, but sort of happy. I had a very supportive father. My father loved and supported me throughout my childhood. So I had that privilege from my childhood. I always think about her a lot is this girl called Pashtana. She was also Pashtana. So when we had the school, and my father and my auntie used to run it, and I remember Pashtana because I had to go to a morning school, and then my father would force me to go to a second time school, and I hated it. I was like, why don't I get to play? Why don't you let me play, right? And then he used to say, no, you have to go and study with them, because I had English lessons too. So my father was like, you have to share it with other children that are learning right now. And for me, it was very emotionally tolling because I didn't want to. And Pashtana used very what do you call it? Nice, polite girl. She's
Mm.
my age. She comes to school twice, and she's totally fine with the second time too. And I was like, how is it possible for a child to be so normal and polite? And I used to tell, every time I used to tell my father, I don't want to go to the second time school. My father used to tell me, I'm gonna adopt Pashtana if you stop, if you don't behave, and if you don't go. So I used to hate her. I hated her so much, but. So she was in class, she was loved by everyone, so you have that jealousy factor.
Mm.
And then I envied her in a sense, maybe, I don't know. And then someday she just vanished, and that's something that hit me, and it's still with me, is the fact that she was later on married to a guy who was 40 years old, and he had 3 children, and they were our neighbors. So it's not something like I'm giving you a story of how Afghan women are victims and all that. It's an Afghan girl who was my age. That could have been my fate if I was born in her family. And I could have been that Pashtana, but she got married. I don't know where she is now, but she could have been I could have been living her life. So for me, it's very emotionally tolling every time when we talk about stuff and childhood and all that. I remember that Pashtana. I remember Nur Bibi or Zarghuna, all these women who looked after me, who were there for me, who were part of the school. And I don't know now where do they exist, or where they are, or how they are. So for me as a child, I had a very grateful life, and I was a privileged life. But women around me, they had to go through a lot. I remember Zarghuna, she had polio. So her father used to beat her a lot. I'm not trying to build a narrative that all Afghan men are abusers. My father was a very good person. He supported me. There are a million Afghan men that I have met are allies to Afghan women, but there are also abuses like domestic violence. So Zarghuna was polio, and she was she was a grown up. She was 23, 24 when she used to come to school, and she just used to take her lessons and used to help my mom with us, and my mom used to pay her then with books and all that. So why am I talking about Zarghuna? Zarghuna was courageous. She studied, and she still got beaten up. She was remarried 3 times. 3 times. First time she was married into a house where the guy was already married, had children and all that. And then when the guy dies, she was remarried to another person. And then she was remarried. The last time I heard, she was remarried to another person, and she's still in that refugee camp. And it hurts me, it sticks with you when you're a child. A lady who looked after you is today being abused, and you don't have any power over that.
Mm.
So those are the things that I remember from my childhood a lot. I do have happy moments with my father, where I was to go out and talk to people, and my father used to make me wear these jeans and stuff, and then people used to be like, oh my god, what is she wearing, and stuff like this. Or I used to watch a lot of Lion King, and I used to label my father as Simba's father, because for me, in my head, I was Simba, and everybody, the world revolved around me. So that was my childhood. A very long reply to your question, but yeah. On your second question that you said about my girls. So we started with this underground circle yesterday, and we enrolled around 100 girls, the girls who are being supported by their families to start, because it's a very safety thing right now. And I just don't want to go on big on media and tell everyone, oh, we did this with your money. We're taking it slow right now. It's a STEM circle. We are trying to teach them coding, graphics, and website development, whatever we can in our power, giving them general curriculum classes. So that's the way forward for me. Now at the same time, I have to deal with my own education, because I told you I'm a senior at American University, so I do have to relocate. I don't want to hide that as a fact, but for one thing that I'm sure that as of yesterday that we speak now, I have put in place a healthcare system where it is people from all over Afghanistan or from the south who are displaced within Kandahar and have access to Kandahar can go to two doctors, and they both, I can't disclose their locations, but if people are willing and they're listening to you and they want to send in their family members to those doctors, they can just directly reach out to Learn Afghanistan, their media handles. So the ladies, they can go to the gynecologist that we have hired. So once a week, the doctor will give free checkups to whoever visits them. And then we pay for tests, x-rays, CT scan, and their medicine. Because we heard that in the refugee camps in another neighboring country, people were not, the woman was not operated on, and she had to go through a lot, and she was a Hazara woman. So I just don't want that to be happening, them crossing the border and not getting the healthcare that they deserve.
Right.
So that's the first thing we did. The second thing was enrolling all these girls into the STEM school and making sure that they access all the tablets. So we donated the tablets to them. We recharged their internet packages, and now they're just learning every other day with our facilitators, and we'll be paying for the teachers. That's the second thing. And the third thing that we did is relocate IDP camps or whoever, because in Kandahar, people are resettling back. So there is not a lot of IDPs left. So what our humanitarian responses to the people who are starving right now, people who have lost their jobs, we're focusing on getting groceries to them, but at the same time trying to find them ways in which they can earn in the long term, maybe starting craftsmanship or artisanship with someone who can make you learn how to tailor clothes, or how to do laundry and stuff, these are different
skills.
sorts of things.
Yeah, like teaching them skills. Yeah.
So this is all we are doing right now, and it's put in motion. So now even if I move, at least I'll have that facility to continue it, because it's all planned and in motion, and everyone is on lead and using it.
God's grace. Yeah. God's grace.
Yeah.
So, because you narrated so many things that you have done and you are continuously doing. So when someone tells you need to learn to speak a little slow, tell them you have a lot of things to do. So speaking slow means wasting time. I got a lot of things to do. I'm sorry, boss. You must catch up on my speed, because you have so much to do. So I think that's another perspective to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think about that, but I have to be very I used to be very headstrong. I still am, but I'm very careful around Afghans when I say stuff, because it's simple, small thing, and they make it so big, and everybody at times I am being trolled for my accent. It's a Pakistani accent. I'm like, really, that's your only problem? Sometimes I'm trolled for my scarf or my clothes or the way I look, and I'm like, why does it even matter?
Yeah.
If you can do a better job, please do that.
Right.
But how many Afghans have you helped? It's not a savior complex talking right now. It's the fact that people need you, and you're using your internet for a wrong thing. You have that internet. That's also a privilege.
Yeah.
But it's crazy out there. So
it is indeed crazy. Sorry, I just brought it up because I just wanted to compliment you for what all you're doing.
I totally. It's a good thing. People don't like to address it, but it's a good thing that people should talk about it. You could use your internet for a better thing,
Absolutely. Yeah. There is a saying that behind every successful man, there is a woman. And I believe, because I have read your life's journey, I've read Malala's journey, and by God's grace, I have a very incredible father who's always like, go live your dreams. He is standing, facing the world. Any problem, you do what you want to do, leave the rest on me. So I believe behind every successful girl or woman is a supportive, strong father who's like, our wind beneath our wings. And your father, your late father, I'm so sorry that you had to lose him to COVID. May God bless his soul. And he has raised you so very well. And he was also in Pakistan with you while you guys were a refugee, all of you. I'm just trying to process what all he must have gone through in order to give you the right education, to make sure that you get the right opportunities, you get the right platform. I mean, has he ever told you about the backlashes? I'm sure you must have witnessed the way he must have been treated by the others in the society, so-called society.
Yeah.
What kind of backlashes did he have to face, if you can share a few?
With my father, because it's like, a very sensitive topic, so I try to, like, nowadays I try to not talk about him, but it's a very good question that you're asking. It's like, in a sense, I don't want to generalize it for every woman and every girl, but God, my father had to go through so much to stand up for me. He had to go to, I don't know, people say hell, I would say Pluto. I'm going to be honest, to get me to school, to get me an education that I wanted. It was not just him, or like, the fact that he had to stand against the gender discrimination. It was also the fact that I was an Afghan. I was too Afghan, When I was in school, I used to get into trouble for, like, saying stuff that would, like, because it's a different world out there. And I just don't want to say any more things about that. But my teachers used to get mad at me for, like, they used to pass a comment about Afghanistan or the geography or the history. And I used to get so mad and so furious. And I used to get back at them. And then they would, like, send me home with a note. And then my father had to come in school to defend me. And in my father's head, I was never wrong. So that is a good thing. but jokes apart, my father had to go through so much when I was a kid, because everyone was expecting a son for him, and he was a tribal chief, and everybody's like, oh, he has to have a son, because all my uncles, I have around 9 uncles, one passed away, so all these 8 have 8 sons, 10 sons like that level, and only 1 daughter or 2 daughters. And everybody's like, okay, he's gonna have the same thing. And then I am born, and my mother is like, everybody was like, oh, it's a daughter. So they discouraged me even being born. My mom was like, your father just took you in his arms, and he was like, she's going to be my son. I know it sounds very gender wise. When you think about it now, as a feminist, I don't want to be a son, but I get his courage that he said that in front of all those people in the 90s, in the late 90s, in a conservative tribal ruler family, So that's very important for me. And apart from that, when he had to put me in an English medium school when I was a very kid, A, you fight with authorities, B, you fight with the rules and laws and regulations that are put in place for refugees and all that. But then you fight with your own family and your own people around you who are like, she's a girl, she's going to get married someday. Oh God, I don't know how many times I have heard this thing. And my father, he was like, if she's going to get married, she'll get married. It doesn't matter. I want to get her educated. And then, so he had to put or go through so much, but he never told me. He never once said in his life that because of you, I am being discriminated or looked out upon, or people look down on me or something like that. Because at the end of the day, he's like a tribal man. With an 8-meter or 9-meter shalwar or trouser, and then he has a turban, and he is totally tribal, and he talks in that accent. He is part of that society, he's backbone of that society. And then he has a daughter who comes on a camera and talks and shows her face. And I don't like talking about all these things because it forgets the whole thing. But at the end of the day, I remember he never said once that, okay, this person said this thing about you, or this is how I feel, this is how people talk about it. And I know people talked, and I know how much it was discriminated, and how much it was discouraged. But at the end of the day, I know somehow that he knew that he's gonna pass away, and that's the reason he raised me so strong, because I don't like talking about my personal life struggles, but I have been through so much in this 1 year that he has passed away on a tribal, on a family level that nobody can even imagine. But I'm still here, I'm still standing. So for me, it's I'm grateful to him that, okay, whatever he left me, the best thing he left me was freedom of thinking, freedom of the way I think, instead of not just expression comes easy. It's freedom of thinking. He didn't make me a mental slave to the way the society functioned. He's told me, your traditions are a good thing. The way you feel good about yourself is a good thing. But at the end of the day, you have to talk I remember this. He used to tell me that in a room full of men, you have to talk so loud that their manly voices are lower than yours. And then your voice is so loud that that's the only thing that they hear, and it rings in their ears, because he knew how men function. And that's the reason I talk so loud.
I mean, he was such a progressive man. I'm so proud of you, and I'm sure he's looking upon you and he is proud for everything that you're doing, and you are doing everything that he's expecting out of you, and even more, so I wish he was here to see it, but God has his way of doing things, and I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe that everything happens for a reason. So, and everything happens for a reason. So, and because you talked so much about men, and in a lot of interviews you have said that the Afghan women are not victims. They have been victimized. And it is happening because of men and politicians. I feel like women hold up half the sky. In the world, we have such a majority. Why is it that they do so? Are they afraid of something? Why is it that women are treated this way?
I think they're very smart. I think men are very smart. You know why? Think of it as objectively and think about it they will not address the humanitarian crisis of a man, family, poor people or children dying of poverty, but they will politicize the way you cover or the layers that you cover yourself with. Now, that crisis is real. This one is not. For me as a woman, and I don't want to generalize again for anyone, for me personally, I don't care who is wearing what. I don't. But for them, they don't want to address that issue. They don't want to cover their own feelings, so they make it more women, more political. And all of a sudden, dressing of a woman becomes political. I'm not saying just in Afghanistan, throughout the world, you see in places women are not allowed to cover their heads. And here in Afghanistan, you have to cover in multiple layers. So it's just, for me, it's how smart they are, how smart they function, and people don't realize it. And the second thing is, you would be starving, there would be poverty, there would be illiteracy, there would be failed governance, paralyzed public administration. But all of a sudden, you'll close schools for grade 7 till grade 12, and then it becomes political. Every decision we take against women becomes political. So they are not, what do you call it? They are, of course, shooting themselves in the foot in the longer run, because money runs out, political context changes, political power changes. But at the end of the day, what about those women that you ruined in your process of politicizing everything, the way they cover, the way they eat, the way they go out, the way they function? That's very important. So for me, it's the fact that men are very smart, and men know that they have to engage women in something, and so they choose petty things. Like picking a battle against girls who are in grade 7 and cannot fight their own battle, fighting against the teachers who are going to teach grade 12. They're not combatants. They are not, what do we call it, military soldiers, so they cannot fight back. And they're not politicians. They are not trained to fight or talk or negotiate. They're teachers. They should be teaching, right? So men are very smart. They try to engage us in petty things. They pick petty battles, and then the rest of the world forgets what is the real issue. Right now they're stalling girls' education. They're not saying it's banned, but it's it's stalled. And we are pressurizing them. But what are you doing in the process of pressurizing them? Is there a deadline or timeline or framework in place which would make sure that the girls go back to school? It's not just pressurizing the Taliban or any men for that instance. I remember working in Afghanistan even before the Taliban were in power, and I remember the government officials used to question my clothes, used to question my accent, they used to question the way I used to cover up myself. It was very petty of them to do all that, but they wanted to engage me into that thing. that I would forget that I'm asking them to approve my project in my rural province because they were discriminating against my own mother native language because the app was in that language. So it's petty for them, to be honest, and they're picking that battle. And I don't know if they don't understand this, if they don't have women, or if they are not, and if they don't understand that at the end of the day, they are raised by women, they might be related to women, and at the end of the day, the women will be the ones taking up the next legacy of that same person. I mean, like at the end of the day, Zabullah Mujahid, if doesn't have daughters, has sisters. If the last person that told me that, oh, my accent is very this type, he probably has male women relatives. So what about all those people? What is his mentality for that? And oh God, the privilege, the entitlement that they feel that they have just to dictate anything to a woman, that's just stupid. For me, that's something that I find it mentally harassing, that they feel that they are entitled to all these things.
Yeah, how they feel like it's their right on us, to tell us what to do and what not to do, because they're a man,
but at the same time, where in the scriptures, where in Quran does it tell you to do this?
Right.
Well, like, do you have this power or this entitlement? Because the own good judge is the person who is holding the sky up there, right? So what about you? What makes you so special to entitle me? I'm just as God's creation as you are, right? So what makes you better than me to feel so entitled to give me a guide on my life, a guidance on my life? That's something very, very important, the way we look at perspectives. Right now, even.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Pashtana, what about the women? How can the rest 50% of the population in the world come together to support another woman who are going through such crisis? How can we stand up and support the women of Afghanistan right now as a priority?
With women of Afghanistan, and especially, I have seen this sense of sisterhood throughout the world. I'm going to be honest. A lot of amazing women like yourself have reached out to me, have reached out to other women. The people that we, like, within your country, there are a lot of hundreds of feuds. But at the end of the day, all these women have come together and they have stood together with each other. Even if I don't know them, I see them and I'm happy for them because they make sure that they stand together. And it's very important for me to see that sisterhood coming around and making sure that it's formed, that we feel that, but then again, women in power are not doing a lot. Do you see the pattern that women in power are silent? They have every means to do anything that they want, but they are not doing anything. So for now, the 50% throughout the world, and especially the women of color, one thing that they can do is, like, ask their representatives to put pressure on the Taliban if they are not from the countries that have any contact or, like, that political contacts with the Taliban. The second thing they can do is, like, help amplify Afghan voices. Like you're doing it through this podcast. There are others of thousands of Afghan girls who are just as amazing, just as inspiring. I can name a few, like Frishta Karim, Frishta Farouk, Shafika Khpilwak, all these amazing ladies, Farouk Wajma. I take inspiration for all these people, Shabana Basij, I can name them continuously. Majority of them I haven't even met in my life. But I see them and it makes me happy that there is someone who's talking right now. So I'm going to be honest, amplifying Afghan women's voices, giving them the podium and the mic to talk, just not talking about them, just not how they are suffering, but letting them show you how they suffered and what needs to be done. And apart from that, most importantly, amplifying their work. If you cannot do nothing, and if you don't know how to contact these women, the least anyone can do is, like, amplify their work by putting a word out, making sure that the people know that there is a humanitarian crisis on the verge in Afghanistan. People are starving, women are suffering, children are suffering, and it's not just the Taliban are the bad guys, right? It's also the ex-government. So for now, the world has to show solidarity with Afghan women. Why? Because they have not suffered. They are not suffering right now. They have suffered in the past, from the past 2 decades and throughout this war.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a poetry of yours that I was reading where you had mentioned that you dream of peace to return. I know
Yeah.
it's again the same dream you're dreaming right now, but what dream do you see as of today? Of course, peace is one of it. What other dream do you see today?
I was very young, by the way, when I wrote that. I was 16, 15, I don't remember. And I don't know, it's still on internet. So, so digital footprint, you see. But as of today, as we talk, every morning I wake up and I'm like just expecting a tweet where they are saying, "Oh, schools are open, women can return back to work." So that's a dream I want to dream right now, because the more work is available, the more people won't be starving. The more girls are in school, the more workforce will be literate in the future. It's not just now; it's a sustainable Afghanistan
Great.
footprint and blueprint that we need. So it makes me just like, this is one thing that every day I wake up and I just think about it, or I expect it. Maybe the naive in me still expect it. So that's something I always think about.
Inshallah, we all will pray that this does happen.
Thank
You know,
you.
I think there is so much power in collective prayers. There is already a lot of power in praying, but when we collectively come together, because we are doing our actions, but God's will is what we need. His support is what we need. So I would just, say that we'll collectively pray that, good things come and what you're dreaming of, your dreams come true. As a sign of Pashtana, I know you've shared so much and everything is just so inspiring and so brave. But as a sign off, is there something that you would like to say to all the audiences?
As a sign off, I would just want to highlight the fact that Afghanistan today needs you the most that than we needed it in the past, because in the past you would get news late. By that time, the abuse would have happened. Today, everything is on their fingertips, and every other person who has a sense of humanity will feel towards Afghanistan, because Afghanistan has went through a moral, a social, and a political genocide, and we need to take a stance now. Not only people who are from Afghanistan, but people who stood with Afghanistan and should be standing with Afghanistan because of sense of humanity, nothing else.
Right. Yeah. For humanity, we have to do
Yeah,
this. Yes, everyone,
yeah,
we have to do that. So, in whatever way we can, we will be putting a link below, which is a GoFund link for Learn Organization. You could donate. You could, as Pashtana said, we could amplify the voices. We could support in any way possible. It is our duty, our responsibility. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pashtana. I am so, so, so grateful that you did this interview and you gave your time, whereas you have so much to achieve. So thank you. Thank you again for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so sorry for being so, messed up, but thank you so much for having
That's
me.
okay.
Thank you.
That's okay. And God bless you. More power to you. You are so brave. And, you have this higher purpose to live. So I'm sure there is so much force of, spirits and good energy
Yeah,
standing with you to push you through. It's your own courage, your own will, but there's a lot more energy.
yeah.
We're all gonna pray for you always, always, always. God bless you, Pashtana. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If it has inspired you even slightly, then please like, share, and comment. See you on the next one. Until then, remember, our time is limited. Let's make the most of it. Keep watching You Are Human on YouTube and listen to these amazing conversations on Spotify and other audio platforms.